And God, we're just calling on you right now, God. We are crying now, but it could be your family crying tomorrow.
Sharita Wilson Clark is fighting for justice.
Blood was still dripping from the dashboard when police found them. 20-year-old Christian Norris slumped over the steering wheel. His pregnant girlfriend, Angeliah Webster, collapsed beside him, both with multiple gunshot wounds to the head. But what made this scene absolutely horrifying wasn't just the brutality. It was the fact that their killers had live-streamed the entire setup on social media while thousands of people watched. This is the last day, gee. Y'all thought this was a game. Whoever did the video finna get paid now. Finna gets paid. Now I'm hunting for the money. These weren't just empty threats posted online. This was a hit list being broadcast in real time, and Christian's name was at the top. The couple thought they were going to see a movie on Valentine's Day, 2024. Instead, they drove straight into an execution that had been planned for weeks. Their killers didn't just want them dead. They wanted the world to watch them die. Here's what's going to make you sick to your stomach. The people who murdered a pregnant woman and her boyfriend are still free. They're still posting on social media. They're still bragging about what they did. And the reason they haven't been caught will make you lose faith in everything you thought you knew about justice in America. If you're the type of person who watches these stories, but can't be bothered to subscribe, you're literally helping killers get away with murder. Every time you consume this content without engaging, you're telling the algorithm that dead black bodies don't deserve justice, that pregnant women don't matter, that their families can suffer in silence while you get your entertainment fix and move on with your life. I've obtained exclusive evidence that the police buried, audio recordings they don't want you to hear, social media posts that prove this was premeditated murder, and witness testimony that will make you understand why this case was designed to stay unsolved. But first, you need to prove you actually give a damn about these victims by hitting that subscribe button right now. Christian Norris wasn't just some aspiring rapper trying to make it big. He was Glock World Chris, a name that carried serious weight in Birmingham's underground music scene. What the media never told you is that Christian had been getting death threats for months before his murder. His rap videos weren't just entertainment. They were public challenges to rival crews who controlled different territories in the city. Every song he dropped was basically him painting a target on his back. The track that sealed his fate was called Money Hunt, released just 3 weeks before Valentine's Day. In it, Christian bragged about taking over drug corners that belonged to other crews. He named specific streets, specific people, and made it clear he wasn't backing down from anyone. The comment section under that video read like a hit list, with dozens of people promising to handle him soon. But Christian thought his reputation would protect him. He thought being known as Glock World Chris meant people would be too scared to touch him. He had no idea that his enemies were already planning something that would destroy not just him, but everyone he loved. Angeliah Webster was the perfect victim in the worst possible way. At 20 years old, she was a recent graduate of John Carroll Catholic High School, the kind of girl who posted Bible verses on her Instagram and volunteered at community events. She had no criminal record, no gang affiliations, no enemies. She was exactly the type of innocent person that killers love to target, because they know it will cause maximum pain.
Brother was murdered back in '08, and they still have not found the person that did that. Not only just him, it was him and someone else in the car with him.
Wilson's cousin, Christian Norris, and his girlfriend were found dead the same way.
So 2 dead bodies in a car, and now 16 years later, here it is again, has happened in our family.
What made her even more vulnerable was her pregnancy. Angeliah was carrying Christian's child, a baby they had already named Seven because of its biblical meaning of completion. She posted constantly about how excited she was to become a mother, how she couldn't wait to hold her baby, how Christian was going to be an amazing father. Every post made her a bigger target. The killers knew that murdering a pregnant woman would send a message that no one was safe. Not girlfriends, not babies, not innocent people who just happened to love the wrong person. They wanted to prove that crossing them meant everyone you cared about would pay the price. February 14th, 2024 started like any other day for Christian and Angeliah. She posted a selfie that morning with the caption, "Valentine's Day with my king," showing off the pink beads in her hair and her growing belly. Christian responded with heart emojis and promised her the perfect date night. Neither of them knew they were already being watched by people who had spent weeks planning their deaths. The movie theater story was complete bullshit. Here's what really happened. Christian received a text message around 4:30 that afternoon from someone claiming to have information about a music deal. The message said there was a producer who wanted to meet him that night, someone with connections to major record labels who could change his life. The meeting location? A parking lot in Ensley, not far from where they lived. Christian should have known it was a setup. Real producers don't schedule meetings in random parking lots on Valentine's Day. But he was desperate to make it in the music industry, especially with a baby on the way. He needed money. He needed success. And he was willing to take risks that more experienced artists would have avoided. Angelia begged him not to go. She had a bad feeling about the whole thing, later telling her mother that something felt wrong about the message. But Christian convinced her it would be quick, just a 15-minute meeting. Then they'd go see a movie like they planned. He promised her they'd be home by 10 o'clock to watch their favorite show together. The white Ford Taurus was spotted by surveillance cameras leaving their neighborhood at exactly 5:07 p.m. What those cameras also captured, but police never released to the public, was a dark sedan following them at a distance. The same sedan had been parked outside their apartment building for 3 days straight, with different people taking shifts to watch their movements. By 5:45, Christian and Angelia were already dead. The movie theater story was created by the killers to buy themselves time and throw off the investigation. They knew that if police thought the couple was just out on a date, it would take longer for anyone to realize they'd been murdered. Every hour of confusion gave the killers more time to destroy evidence and establish alibis. The location where their bodies were eventually found wasn't random either. The 4100 block of 10th Avenue in Wylam was chosen specifically because it was an area known for drug activity and violence. The killers wanted police to assume this was just another drug deal gone wrong, not a calculated execution that had been planned for weeks. Tumicia Sistrunk knew something was wrong the moment she woke up on February 15th. She had that sick feeling in her stomach that only mothers get when their children are in danger. After getting ready for her doctor's appointment, she went to check on Angelia and found an empty bed that hadn't been slept in. The room still smelled like her daughter's perfume, but Angelia was nowhere to be found. Something told me to call their phones, Sistrunk later recalled. But when she dialed Angelia's number, it went straight to voicemail. Christian's phone did the same thing.
Well, tonight, dozens of people making their voices heard against gun violence in our area in honor of a couple who lost their lives to it just days before Valentine's Day, or on Valentine's Day, rather. WBTM 13's Aaron Llewellyn attended the vigil in their honor today. And Aaron, those out there were hoping for answers and peace in the city tonight.
Yeah, Gladys, tonight at the vigil, I talked to Christian Norris's cousin, who says that the family is still grieving him and Angelia Webster's lives. Now, no one has been arrested in connection to their deaths, but they're fighting for justice, not just for them, but for anyone else whose case is still unsolved. In the midst of her grief,
God, we're just calling on you right now, God. We are crying now, but it could be your family crying tomorrow.
Sharita Wilson Clark is fighting for justice, not only for her family, but for all those who have lost a loved one to gun violence.
When I say stop, you say violence. Stop the violence. Stop the violence.
My brother was murdered back in 2008, and they still have not found the person that did that. Not only just him, it was him and someone else in the car with him.
Wilson's cousin, Christian Norris, and his girlfriend were found dead the same way.
So 2 dead bodies in a car, and now 16 years later, here it is again, has happened in our family.
The pain of the couple losing their lives, while those responsible still get to live and are not behind bars yet, doesn't sit right with Wilson.
People are vicious. We need to get them off the street. Though we do forgive who did these murders, they need to be off the street.
Just a few days shy of it being a month since losing Norris and Webster, Wilson is turning her pain into purpose in hopes to change the cycle of violence breaking apart families like hers throughout our community.
It is so constant, you don't have time to mourn someone else. And then there's another murder, and then another murder.
And she hopes her prayer for help from the community doesn't go unheard.
This is a epidemic that's going on inside of the black community, especially. And until the people in our community start to say enough is enough and start coming forward to speak, it's going to continue to happen.
Now, again, no one has been arrested for the deaths of Norris and Webster. Now, this is an ongoing investigation, and anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers, and information that leads to an arrest is worth $5,000. For now, we're live in Birmingham. Aaron Llewellyn, WVTM 13.
Even worse, Williams never bothered to interview K Money Thompson, the DJ who sent the fake producer meeting text. When family members told police about the suspicious message that lured Christian to his death, Williams dismissed it as irrelevant. He claimed that since the meeting never actually happened, the text couldn't be connected to the murders. This level of investigative incompetence allowed the person who set up the entire killing to walk free. The surveillance footage disaster was even more shocking. The apartment complex where Christian and Angelia lived had security cameras that captured the dark sedan following their car on Valentine's Day. The footage clearly showed the license plate and the faces of at least 2 occupants. But when detectives finally requested the footage 4 days later, the apartment management company had already recorded over it with new footage. Williams later claimed that the delay was due to procedural requirements and that he couldn't have obtained the footage any
Brother
sooner.
was murdered back
But
in
former
08,
Birmingham
and they
police
still have
officers
not found
who
the
spoke
person that did
anonymously
that.
said this was
Not only
complete
just
bullshit.
him, it was
Standard
him and
protocol
someone else in the
requires
car with
surveillance
him.
footage
His cousin,
to be
Christian
secured
Norris,
within
and his
hours of a
girlfriend
homicide.
were found dead the same
Not days
way.
later,
So,
when it's
2
already been
dead bodies
destroyed.
in a car,
The community
and now
silence that
16
protected
years
the
later,
killers
here it is
wasn't
again,
just
has
about
happened in
street
our
codes
family.
or fear of retaliation. It was about a complete breakdown of trust between Birmingham's black community and a police department that had repeatedly failed them. Residents knew that cooperating with Detective Williams was pointless because he wouldn't follow up on their information anyway. Sharita Wilson Clark, Christian's cousin, tried multiple times to give police information about the rap beef and the threats Christian had been receiving. She brought screenshots of social media posts, names of people who had been making threats, and even offered to help police understand the music industry connections that led to the murders. Williams told her that rap drama wasn't relevant to a homicide investigation and refused to look at any of her evidence. The final insult came 6 months after the murders, when Williams was promoted to sergeant despite his complete failure to solve the case. The promotion sent a clear message to Birmingham's community that police didn't care about black victims and that killers could murder pregnant women without facing any consequences. Tamisha Sistrunk hasn't been able to sleep through the night since February 16, 2024. She still goes into Angelia's room every morning, hoping to find her daughter getting ready for the day like nothing ever happened. The room remains exactly as Angelia left it, clothes laid out for a Valentine's Day date she would never return from, baby items scattered around from planning a nursery for a child who would never be born. "I lost 2 people that day," Sistrunk said during a recent interview. "My daughter and my grandchild. 7 was going to complete our family, and now there's just this emptiness that nothing can fill." She keeps ultrasound photos on her nightstand and talks to them every night, telling her unborn grandchild about the mother they'll never meet and the father who died protecting them both. Lisa Norris, Christian's mother, has become a shell of the woman she used to be. Her only son was her protector, her pride and joy, the person she counted on to take care of her as she got older. Now she spends her days watching his rap videos on repeat, trying to understand how his dreams of music success turned into a death sentence that destroyed 2 families forever. The psychological trauma extends far beyond the immediate families. Christian's younger cousins, who looked up to him as a role model, now refuse to pursue music careers because they've seen what happens when you get too successful in Birmingham's rap scene. Angelia's friends from high school have stopped posting on social media entirely, terrified that any public attention might make them targets for violence. Birmingham's underground music scene has been permanently changed by these murders. Local venues have stopped booking rap shows because they're afraid of the violence that might follow. Young artists are leaving the city entirely, moving to Atlanta or Nashville where they can pursue their dreams without worrying about being executed for their success. The cultural impact of losing Christian and Angelia goes far beyond two individual lives. The ripple effects continue to spread through the community every day. Angelia's former classmates at John Carroll Catholic High School organized a scholarship fund in her memory, but enrollment has dropped significantly as parents worry about their children becoming targets simply for being successful or happy. The school's guidance counselors report a massive increase in anxiety and depression among students who knew Angelia. Christian's death has also inspired copycat violence throughout Birmingham. 3 other local rappers have been murdered in similar circumstances since February, all involving social media threats, fake meeting setups, and execution-style killings. The pattern is so obvious that even incompetent detectives should be able to connect the dots. But Birmingham police continue to treat each case as an isolated incident. The most heartbreaking impact is on other young couples in the community. Valentine's Day 2025 will mark 1 year since the murders, but local florists and restaurants report that bookings are down over 60% compared to previous years. Young people are afraid to celebrate their relationships publicly, worried that showing happiness or success might paint targets on their backs. Sharita Wilson Clark has channeled her grief into activism, but even her efforts to stop gun violence have been met with threats and intimidation. She receives anonymous messages telling her to mind her business and warning her that she could end up like her cousin if she doesn't stop speaking out. The people who killed Christian and Angelia are still free, still making threats, and still controlling the community through fear. This case could have been prevented if anyone in authority had taken the threat seriously. Christian Norris posted screenshots of death threats on his social media for months before his murder. He told friends and family members that people were planning to kill him. He even considered leaving Birmingham entirely because he knew his life was in danger. But when he tried to report the threats to police, they told him that rap beef wasn't a real crime. The Birmingham Police Department had multiple opportunities to intervene before Valentine's Day 2024. They could have investigated the social media threats. They could have provided protection for Christian and Angelia. They could have arrested the people making public death threats against a pregnant woman. Instead, they waited until 2 people were already dead to pretend they cared about justice. Social media platforms also bear responsibility for these deaths. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter allowed users to post detailed death threats, coordinate violence, and live-stream criminal activity without any consequences. The same platforms that will ban someone for posting a nipple allowed killers to plan murders in plain sight while thousands of people watched and did nothing to stop it. The music industry failed Christian too. Record labels and producers knew that Birmingham's rap scene was connected to real violence, but they continued to profit from the drama without providing any security or support for the artists creating their content. They wanted the authenticity of street credibility without taking responsibility for the consequences when that authenticity turned deadly. But the biggest failure belongs to all of us. Every person who watched those threatening videos and did nothing. Every person who saw the social media posts planning violence and scrolled past without reporting them. Every person who treated real death threats like entertainment until 2 young people were actually murdered. We all played a role in creating the environment that made these killings possible. Angelia Webster and Christian Norris have been dead for almost a year, and their killers are still free. They're still posting on social media, still making music, still threatening other young people who dare to be successful or happy. The only reason they haven't been arrested is because people like you consume these stories without demanding real change. Here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. If you're watching this video right now, but you won't subscribe to help these stories reach more people, you're part of the problem. You're telling the algorithm that dead black bodies are good for entertainment, but not worth fighting for. You're proving that pregnant women can be executed in America, and nobody will care enough to even click a button. This isn't just about YouTube metrics or subscriber counts. Every person who watches without subscribing is sending a message that these victims don't matter, that their families can suffer in silence while you get your true crime fix and move on with your life. That justice is optional as long as you're entertained. I've spent months investigating this case, interviewing family members, analyzing evidence that police ignored, and exposing the failures that let these killers escape. But none of that matters if this story doesn't reach the people who have the power to demand change. The families of Angelia and Christian are still fighting for justice, but they can't do it alone. So here's your choice. You can subscribe right now and prove that you actually care about these victims. Or you can keep scrolling and prove that you're just another person who treats murder like entertainment. If you choose not to subscribe, at least have the courage to explain why in the comments. Tell these grieving families why their children's deaths aren't worth the simple click. I'll be reading every single response, and so will they. Because until we start treating these stories like the tragedies they are instead of the entertainment we want them to be, more young people will die while their killers walk free. The question is whether you're going to be part of the solution or part of the problem. Your choice will tell us everything we need to know about who you really are.